Hefe, Mr. Glass Half Full, the revival.
What is up, everybody? Happy Wednesday, hump day. We're over it, baby. We got a special edition show today, Jeff, right? I think we got it's the trade deadline for the NHL is only about 48 hours away, give or take a couple hours, but we have a special guest to talk NHL, New York Rangers, trade deadline, everything else in between. And you know, me and Hefe, we wanted to give the vibes to everybody here. It's an important week for everybody. So I don't know. And I just saw the intro again. I might have to change up my intro.
Dude, I was going to say the same thing. We got to get a new clip for you because that one is aged. That one is aged.
It's aged. It's aged, not like fine wine. But hey, listen, instead of wasting everybody's time, we're going to get right into it. I know everybody's got on their short lunch break. We got our special guest for only a limited amount of time. So we're going to have him in here. I want to introduce everybody. If you don't know already, Jonny Lazarus. What's going on, my man? But host of Daily Faceoff. Content from BR Open Ice, you build Blue Crew Pod. You're all over the place, man. You're all over the place.
Thank you, fellas. I appreciate the kind intro. Yeah, it's busiest time of year. I'll be honest, it's like my least favorite time of year. I hate all the hypothetical, like armchair GM kind of shit. It's really just like not my cup of tea. I'm getting LinkedIn messages at 2 a.m. on a Tuesday. Who the Rangers bringing in? And I'm like
on LinkedIn, they're finding you on LinkedIn
on any platform.
Unreal.
It's insane.
Hey, that's a little bit of the insanity of Ranger fans too, right? Like we're just a kooky bunch, I think.
Yeah, but listen, it's. I don't want to complain because I love the fact that people are excited. It's great. Yeah. I just don't have the answers. Like that's really, that's what it comes down to. I pretty much hear, maybe I hear things a little bit sooner than most people do, but I don't talk to GMs. I don't have the information. So for me, it's like, I'm waiting just as patient as everybody else. I'm excited. So,
hey, listen, you're a content guy. You throw your opinions out. You have some scoops, but you know what? We come here, we brought you in here for your hockey genius, and we love what you do. So we want to, pick your brain a little bit about a couple of things, most notably, trade deadline, 48 hours away, just over.
Give us all the answers. He's got them.
Yeah, who's going where? Tell us right now.
Everything you said, fuck it. What do you know?
Right, exactly. Just throw that out.
Exactly.
So Rangers
LinkedIn right now.
Anything yet, right? So is there a lot going on behind the scenes in your mind? Or are they simply waiting teams out to see who gets desperate? Or if the price comes down, what's the current status where your belief is the wait here?
Well, it sounds like the Penguins want to move Gensel by tonight. I think that was something that was said yesterday. And from what it sounds like, the asking price is just a little too much for him. In regards to the Rangers, maybe who, you look at a guy like Jake Gensel, he's a rental right now. Like there's no guarantee he signs any sort of extension with whatever team that grabs him. And I think he's obviously a guy that the Rangers should be in on. But if you're talking rental, I don't know if it's really, I don't want to say it's not worth it because Gensel is obviously one of the better playoff performers we've seen in the NHL over the past few years. But whenever you're talking rental, the Rangers have now had rentals for two previous playoffs, and it hasn't worked out, and they've had to figure it out in the summer and going into the following season. So, I'm not really in the team of let's go out and grab a rental, but I am fully on board with grabbing guys with term. I think most people would be. I don't think that's anything crazy for me to say. So, you look at the guys I'm a big Frank Vatrano guy. I love Frank as a person.
Yes.
Would love to see him come back, and he has 1 year left on his deal. I'm all for guys like him. I don't actually, I should have looked this up before, but I don't know if Wenberg comes with term. I think he does.
It is. I was just reading about it too.
Yeah, he's a UFA, so he's probably a rental as well, unless they find a way to sign him, which I'm sure they could. So stuff like that is certainly a factor.
Right.
But if I could draw up the perfect, roster or two guys to bring in, it's Wenberg and Gensel. I think that those are the two guys you'd want.
That's
not as realistic. I don't know.
Right. I guess you could kind of, in our mind, maybe switch a couple of right wing names. Maybe there's the Buchneviches, Tarasenko's, maybe someone else, Petranos. But seems like the Vetrano price a little too high. Is this what you're kind of feeling? And where are we stuck? Are they stuck between going all in this year? Is this an all in year for you, or is this we can still build this thing? We can make this thing into a longer run if we do it right.
Well, for me, like, I don't want to say it's all in this year, but I think it's all in these next 2 to 3 years. Like, I think if you're building something, you're building it either to win this year, next year, or the year after. Because I look at this team, and this is something I've argued now for like the last 2 weeks. Like, I have raised my voice. I have gone back and forth. And, I just think this team's window ends when Panarin's contract's up. Like, you look at Panarin, you look at Kreider, they're both 32 years old. Mika and Trocheck are both 30 years old. Trouba's 30 years old. Igor's 28. Foxy's 26, entering his prime. Like, this team right now, that window is the next 2 to 3 years, in my opinion. Like, and then you look in advance, by that time, Lafreniere could be a stud by then in 3 years. Abe Perreault will come in. He might be the first-line center. Hopefully he is. Othman, hopefully, is adjusted to the NHL. Rempe, Edstrom, Cooley, these guys have grown into themselves, so you're kind of retooling 3 years from now. So I think whatever you have to do to go all in to win a cup in the next 2 to 3 years, I think you do it. And it doesn't have to be just this year. That's why I'm like, rental doesn't make sense, but if they have a term for a year or two, then you're building more toward a bigger picture, as opposed to, the other side of the argument is now like, getting rid of assets and mortgaging the future.
Yeah.
When I don't see a future past like 3 years for the most part. That's like just a retooling, I think.
Right. Right. Absolutely.
I have kind of a broader question. Why do you think the trade deadline is so late in the season, where it doesn't leave a whole lot of room to gel with a new team, or most sports will have it more in the like smack middle of the season?
I don't really know, honestly. That's been a question that's come up lately. And it seems like it gets later and later each year too.
Yeah.
Which to me, I don't really get. I don't know. Like, I don't have the answer for that really. Maybe just like,
I was told that you have all the answers. So
well, I guess when you think about it though, like maybe my only answer, and this is like, just my own opinion, like, is the way the NHL season works out. Like they have it like broken up into like different things to kind of look forward to, like the global series in the beginning of the year. Then you look at like the Winter Classic at the new year, then the All-Star break, then the trade deadline. It's just like, or even a stadium series. Like, there's just all these like little things to, I guess, keep people entertained throughout the season and change things up a little bit. Maybe that's why. It's the only thing I can really think of. I also, I don't really follow other sports that closely besides the NBA, so I can't speak on like the MLB trade deadline or the NFL trade deadline. I don't know when those are in the seasons.
All right, let's get to the chat really quick with our guy TK. First off, he loves the midday fuck work podcast. We completely agree.
Yes.
But he has a question: do you see Rempe getting ice time in the playoffs? Any kind of significant ice time for him?
So I think that if you're playing the Florida Panthers and Matt Rempe's in the lineup, it's just a bad move.
It's not good.
I think, I think Matt Rempe certainly is effective. It's funny because like the last 2 years, the Rangers' needs have been getting a goal scorer, and that's been the deadline move, right? Getting someone that could be a genuine sniper and score goals and help this team at 5-on-5. But also what they've lacked in doing that and adding those pieces is that in-your-face running gun kind of style. Like, the Rangers weren't really a hard team to play against. And now it seems like, not that Rempe plays so much every night, but he certainly changed the identity of this team where, people don't just play against the Rangers now and think like, oh, they're just going to make 3 extra passes, be cute, and try to score a nice goal. It's, they have the skill, and they have guys that are going to, run you down and lay out if you hold on to the puck too long. So I think bringing up Rempe and even Edstrom, they've kind of, I think, try to resemble or mirror that Florida Panther look, right? It's that perfect mix of skill and grit. And I think having Rempe in the lineup certainly adds to that more than it takes away from it.
So on that note, have we seen the last of Rempe if a trade happens, or do you see him having a role maybe in the fourth line as a change of pace kind of guy, maybe throw a couple checks, throw a couple bodies in the playoffs? Is he useful?
I think he is.
Okay.
I think especially, and I've preached it already now for a couple of days, like after seeing the Florida Panther game, like when you're playing that team, you need him in the lineup. And I know I just said that, but like that's really where I think he's most effective against a team like that. Like maybe, if you're playing a more skilled team, you might not need him in there. But again, like when you are going up against skilled defensemen, like look what Rempe did against Toronto. Like he was pretty effective in that game as well.
Sure.
I think just I'm not a defenseman, but knowing other defensemen and talking to defensemen, when you're going back to retrieve a puck on the breakout and Matt Rempe's, down your throat, like you're thinking once or twice before you make a play. And it changes your decision making. Yeah, exactly. So that's why I think it's good. I mean, one of the best 5-on-5 shifts the Rangers had the other night was early on in the first period. Edstrom and Rempe get in the forecheck. They get the puck from low to high, like get 3 shots of the net. Rempe's screening Bobrovsky. He's ducking, looking around Rempe's body. Nothing comes of it, but it's just a good offensive zone pressure shift, and you build off that. It's all about, hockey's a game of just, and this is the term my coach has always said. So it's just like, it's not a great term, but it's just like throwing good shit on the pile, right? Like that's how you just build momentum. Just throw good shit in the pile, and eventually it comes.
Okay. Well, speaking of this we talked about last we've seen. Could this be the last we've seen of Kakko as a blue shirt? In your opinion, is he a Ranger come Saturday?
I mean, like I've said, I'm willing to get rid of him. Like I don't have an attachment to Kaapo Kakko. I believed in him earlier in the year, and I still think he could be a really good player somewhere else. I just don't see him being a legit top 6 forward for the Rangers. It just hasn't worked, and I don't see it changing. He's got the only opportunities he hasn't really gotten is on the power play. He's gotten chances with Mika and Kreider. He played a lot with Panarin last year, and he's had the chance to thrive and just hasn't ran away with it. So I think he's a really effective third line player, but I still think there are other players you can bring in to elevate this roster a little bit more than he can. To me, like if you just throw Jimmy Vesey in his spot right now, I think you kind of get the same results for the most part.
He'd drop
I don't think Vesey is, maybe strong with puck possession and whatnot, but I don't think it's this drastic drop off.
I do have a serious question from Lord Puffalot here. Would you agree that not getting Tarasenko sucks assholes, and Tarasenko going to Florida is an asshole after Taco Bell? Would you agree?
Tough.
That's a really well worded question.
Lord Puffalot does that.
Yeah.
He does that.
I think Tarasenko, it's interesting because like someone said on my show this morning, like Tarasenko was a huge disappointment in New York. I didn't think so really at all.
No.
So, while it might not have Taco Bell asshole,
right.
That he's going to Florida. I sometimes that's a good thing. I don't know if that's a good.
Yeah, right. Who knows?
I love Taco Bell, so I don't mind what comes with it.
And up.
I don't mind.
So I think him going to Florida. I mean, I'd rather Tarasenko go to Florida than Gensel go to Florida. Like, I know they were in the mix too. So, I would take that. But yeah, I mean, listen, Florida's a team right now. If they don't have a lot of draft picks, they don't have a lot of assets to give up. So for them, like now is their window. I don't think they have a first round pick till 2026. So, I think this is a year for Florida to go all in. So you kind of expect them to make a move like that. And yeah, they're the team to beat. It's pretty obvious. So obviously it's a little bit scarier, but I don't think Tarasenko comes in there and just like automatically they're that much better than they already were. I mean, they're the team to beat already. So had they brought in Gensel, I'd say cancel the season. But Tarasenko, yeah, he's a great player, but still the same team that they were, I think.
Right. So I think we could all agree on Wenberg being a good third line addition. Other than Gensel, who's your guy that you're sticking your flag at? Maybe a surprise guy, someone you could easily see. Tarasenko's side, I guess we just talked about it. Who's a guy you could see that makes a difference and maybe helps Zibby get to that next level again?
Well, surprise guy or guy that
don't be a surprise guy and then a guy that you want. Give me a little bit of both.
A surprise guy I could see potentially coming in would be like Brandon Duhaime, who no one's really talking about. He's a cheaper, like third line, fourth line guy, kills penalties, plays physical, bigger body. He's done well with Minnesota in his career. I actually played against him in college. He was a Providence Friar. Really
Nice.
tough kid to play against. I think his
Yeah,
cap hits like 1.1 million. So if they're looking for just more depth guys, he's a guy I think you'd add. That's just like the surprise. I don't think they're gonna do it,
Yeah.
but like if I had to throw one random name out there that no one really has talked about, like he'd be the guy for me. The guy that I still want though, I think I've said it before, it's Frank Petrano. Like I think Frank is people are saying maybe he's overachieving and whatnot, and some people are saying he's not even that much better at 5-on-5 than anyone else. He's just a power play merchant, but also like the power play has struggled.
Yeah.
I don't think this power play is like permanent. If you bring in Vetrano, while I do think Lafreniere deserves to have some first power play looks, I think if you throw Vetrano on the first unit and maybe take off Trocheck, while Trocheck deserves it to be on there as well, I think it just makes a more balanced attack where, everyone that the Rangers play against knows the first look is to get Mika a one-timer, right? Like that's obvious. So if you have a guy like Vetrano, who's got one of the best shots in the NHL as well out there, they have to respect that. So if Vetrano's in the slot as a bumper and he's an option for a one-timer, teams are going to collapse to him a little bit more, making Mika a little bit more open. And on the flip side, if teams are going to cheat toward Mika, Frank becomes open in the slot. And I'd so much rather have Frank Petrano shooting the puck from the slot than almost anyone else, like outside of Austin Matthews in the NHL. So, while people think that it's only 5-on-5, they bring in Petrano, I still think there are adjustments to be made to the power play to make it better. Because I think since like January 14th, it's at like 17%, which is like 23rd in the NHL. So
it doesn't make sense.
There's always room to improve.
It's defying logic. I mean, between the power plays, it's like Space Jam. They took their powers. Somebody took their powers away. But and then the Mika thing, the 5-on-5, is it weird at this point? Is it just coincidence, or is there real drop off? And do you think it could be helped by this acquisition at the deadline?
Like it's just the shooting mentality to me, but I don't know if it's like insanely different than years past. It's been really hard to really understand what's going on because like he still is shooting on the power play and stuff. Just 5-on-5 for whatever reason, pucks aren't going in. And I don't know if he's been like as aggressive. And one play that stands out to me, he scored a goal against Jersey like 2 weeks ago. The puck comes to the slot off a faceoff. It's just him and the goalie. And he looks to pass backdoor through like two pairs of skates to Kreider. Puck comes back to him. He puts in the rebound. But like, I feel like when Mika's at his like most confident, he's looking to shoot that puck without even a thought. So I don't know if it's a lack of confidence. Yeah, like I don't know. It's really tough to tell like what it really is that's different. But it's clear that something has to change, right? Like that's
he's got to get that killer mindset back and just be like dangerous too. So like speaking of that, because there's like a handful of guys that you could probably pick for this answer, but is there one guy that you would isolate as the biggest X factor for the Rangers to make the most noise to go on this run? Which guy is the most important for this run coming up?
There's a lot of underperformance
because like
going on with
you need like peak Igor. You need Mika to turn it up. You need Panarin to not go quiet. You need a lot of things, but is there one that stands out to you?
Well, I mean, I definitely would say like Mika's the first name that comes to mind. Like, it's funny. I joke with my roommate who's like not a hockey guy at all, but like the one thing he said, 2 years ago is that the Rangers go as Mika goes, which is like kind of true. People can say it about Igor, but like, I mean, you look at that 22 run, like Mika's as hot as he could be. He scores those big time goals in like game 6 and 7 against Pittsburgh. Continues it against Tampa for the most part. I think he's the most important goal scorer for sure. And when he's hot, it seems like everything's going right. But like another guy that I look at that I think has another level to get to, who's been, a little bit of a roller coaster this year is Keandre. Like I think, he's shown a lot of positives this year, but has also shown, I don't want to say negatives, but just like inconsistency. And I think you need him just to get a little bit angrier, a little bit more physical for his size and his frame. And I think if he's more of a shut down, hard to play against defenseman, it's going to be really tough for the opposition to do much offensively. I think he's just been a little bit too soft, I guess, for what we've seen from him.
And do the Rangers have the balls to split up him and Trouba? That's my question.
I just don't know what pairings work best. Like,
Yeah.
like maybe him and Fox work, but do Lindgren and Trouba or like maybe
no. You're right.
I mean, I think we saw Gus and Lindgren work a little bit when Fox was hurt. But then you have Trouba and Schneider. Like, I don't know if it's just a tough thing to figure out, and I don't know if they want to risk it right now.
Yeah, it's true.
It's tough.
That brings me to my next question. Is there any chance that maybe a vet, like a vet bottom six kind of defender gets thrown into this mix here at the trade deadline? Is there any need for that? Or is that, just kind of probably not going to happen?
Well, no, I think it's always good to build your blue line.
Right.
We saw it last year with like Nico Mikkola, and I think the year before with like Ben Harper even. And I think this year a name that I've talked about with like Dan Rosen is Joel Edmondson. He's won a cup with St. Louis. He's more of that defensive defenseman, big body, physical, guy that comes because it's kind of inevitable that someone might get hurt, right? Like, it's tough. So I think he's a name that you'd look to just to build out the blue line a little bit more and get some, veteran experience, Stanley Cup experience to help out.
Awesome. I mean, Jeff, do you have any more questions? It's an important day. Get go. You got one more.
Just got
Challenge me, fellas. Come on.
One last question.
Go.
Rangers have been relevant a lot in recent years, but they haven't won a cup in 30 years. Do you see anything about this particular group or this team that gives them an edge over teams in the past that fell short in the playoffs? Challenged, consider him.
Well,
challenged.
I don't think teams in the past had a Panarin. I guess maybe not.
What's
a
playoff Panarin?
A Panarin to this extent. This is a career year for him. I also don't think the last 2 years, like Lafreniere has been that much of a difference maker to me this year. He's been a huge difference maker.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think like what else the difference would be. Depending on what they get at the deadline, it's going to change obviously too. But I also think Laviolette changes things. Just having a coach that's been there and done it, and seems to push the guys a little bit harder than Gallant may have, certainly helps. But the biggest difference to me with this group versus like the Henrik years was, depending on how they perform in the playoffs, the power play is so much better than what it was 10 years ago. And it's funny, the stat that I love to bring up, I mean, I hate that I do bring it up, but I love to bring it up. In the first round last year, the Rangers power play scored goals in 3 games. They didn't score goals in 4 games. The 3 games they scored goals and they won. The 4 games they didn't score goals and they lost. They live and die by the power play. It's just like the New York Knicks. They live and die by the 3. It's just the same kind of vibe. So, had the Rangers found a way to score the power play in Game 7, who knows? Different game. So I think that's something that they got to get going here towards the playoffs because, people say like, how important 5-on-5 is and all that stuff. But the power play is just as important. And that's actually what pisses me off when people shit on Chris Kreider. Like, call Kreider what you want at 5-on-5. He still kills penalties. He scores in the fucking power play basically like automatically. And that counts as much as being effective at 5-on-5.
A goal is a goal. Doesn't matter when you score it.
A goal is a goal.
Yeah.
And I think in the playoffs, more than anything, you need good goaltending and you need good special teams. So without Chris Kreider scoring on the power play last year, Rangers maybe get swept. Like he was the guy that carried it in Game 1 and 2 and then scored, I think, in Game 3. And I think even in Game 6, that would be my difference, I guess, between the groups.
Good shit, man.
Right on. You see his handle in the banner below. Make sure you're following Jay Lazzy23 for great Rangers content. This was fun, man. Thank you so much for coming on.
Before you go, I got one last challenge for you. You know the current slate of today. Any picks you want to throw out to our fans for some free money? Just free money. Throw it out there.
I'm not really allowed to just because of exclusivity, but you can go to you can check out my article that I just posted.
Hey, there we go.
Reason.com. There's some picks in there.
There's a plug that I wanted to say right on top of it. That perfect segue.
Do you want to plug your podcast as well? What else you got going on?
Yeah, I do the Blue Crew pod for the Rangers, and then I do Morning Cup of Hockey every Monday to Thursday, 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. Actually, even today we went to 10:30. We actually have Kyle Davidson, the GM of the Blackhawks, coming on tomorrow morning. So
nice.
Excited for that. I mean, we're not going to ask him like super crazy questions, but it's always interesting to hear from a GM this time of year, like what goes in behind the scenes and how they, I guess, go about their decision making and whatnot. So I don't see the Blackhawks being very active in the next couple of days, but it'll be cool to hear his perspective. So definitely want to plug those things. Appreciate it, guys.
Awesome, man.
Yeah, of course, man. Great to meet you. Let's go Rangers. Spiro, any closing thoughts?
No, I just hope to hear some good news out of your account over the next 48 hours. So let's pray.
I got the noties on. I turned them on. So
thank you guys. And after playoff games at the Garden, I'll probably be sticking around the area for a beer or something. So if you want to grab a beer,
what's your spot? What's your spot?
I like Tiernanog, but Mustang Harry's too is always a good one.
Okay.
Tiernanog is always packed. So
Right.
Mustang Harry's is always a good one.
Perfect.
You guys, what's your spot?
We are stout guys, but Tiernanog always is. Yeah, we look like stout guys, don't we?
Yeah.
We're just
you guys figure. How do you figure that?
I think I was stout till like 3 or 4 a.m. after the Panarin overtime. that was
understandable.
Awesome. All right, man. We hope we catch
Thank you guys.
Appreciate you.
Have a good one.
Peace.
Bye.
Eli Rex, El Jefe, Mr. Glass half full, the revival.